of the ancient Greeks, which I think was a very high level of quality people. But I do think that unless we change ourselves genetically, you were talking about indigo children, and that might be a possible route toward that. Until we eliminate those 4,000 plus genetic disorders, and more importantly, until we eliminate the barrier in our brains that keep us from fully accessing our capacities, we are going to remain as we are. Now, if we want to change ourselves for the better, and if we are allowed to do that over time, if we're given enough time, another 300-400 years perhaps, I think we can do those things, Marshall. I really do. We have two big problems as a species. We have a gene pool that is cluttered with defects because when we were being created, the mistakes were not cleaned up. Number two, in the making of the slave and the servant, the gods who gave us their bodies and their brains took away, 90%? It's the number you hear that we use 10% of our brain. They took away 90%. They took away 80%. It doesn't matter what they took away. They took away the vast majority of our brain power. In other words, the brain sitting in my head and in your head is capable of so much more than you and I can use it for right now. Why? Because there is some kind of a barricade in there between the little that we can use and the rest of it that we could access if we had the same tears in the wall that savants have. You know, Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man, and there are over 100 savants in the world that have been carefully studied, and each of them has unique capabilities, whether that be in art or music or language or whatever, and some of them are capable in more than one. But the point is, their brains are just like our brains, except in the damage to the good part, what you and I access, and the damage to that, somehow a tear is created through the wall that's blocking off the other 90% or 80% or whatever it is, and they get a window in there. So in having so many of them, if it was one or two of them, you could just mark it off as some kind of a fluke, but there's so many of them, it tells you the human species has all that brain power sitting in there going unused, and the savants tell us that it's there. So we have to do two things. We have to clean up our gene pool as a whole, and we have to find a way to drop that barricade. When we do that, then we're equal to our creators. Not, in my view, not until.
Could it be that dropping the barrier, one step in that direction, is to admit to ourselves that we are a biologically engineered slave species?
Sure, absolutely.
And when we do that, we do unlock something, because to have that kind of power, as a species, we like to dominate, control, exploit. We do to others, and we do in very unkind ways. And this is the nature of our species. But if we were to understand who we really are, and that this kind of behavior is literally the throttle control that's holding us back, and learn not to think like slaves, then perhaps that would be something that could begin to unlock that greater potential. Do you think so?
I don't think so. It would be, again, I think that's a nice and even a utopian view of it, but I don't think that we have the physical, emotional capacity to do that. Some of us do. There will always be, Marshall, those of us who are enlightened, who are indigo children, and who have carried forward in the proper direction. But those people who do that, I think, are themselves flawed copies of the flawed copies. I think the majority of us are always going to be the Jeffrey Skillings and the Ken Lays at Enron and the George Bushes and the people like that who are hell bent on subjugating others to their will and making themselves first and foremost. I just simply see the majority of us responding as we were created to respond as slaves and servants, and having a slave and servant mentality and a flawed mentality and a flawed emotional system and a flawed ability to care about each other and ourselves. There are good aspects to us. There are good aspects to human beings, and certain of us, Mother Teresa, I mean, you can go down the list of the evil and the good, and there will always be good, but the majority, I think, without an overhaul of our genetic code, is the majority will always dominate toward evil, in my opinion.
And that probably is a good reason why we're so dead set against stem cell research.
That could be one of the reasons. There are a lot of things working against moving forward into these areas of doing this changing of our code. But as you said a moment ago, when the door is open and we all have to look around and accept that the things that you and I are discussing now are fundamentally true, maybe not true in every detail, but fundamentally true, that we are a created species, and all of these things, these genetic defects that we have, and the evidence of savants all indicate that what I'm saying is fundamentally true. And if that is in fact the case and is proved, and science is forced by the push of people wanting improvement in these things, then it's going to happen. But yeah, until then, it doesn't serve the purpose of any leader to get this underway. It just doesn't. They're very comfortable. They're very secure. They're very happy where they are. They're in positions of power and influence, and nobody wants that to change on their watch. That's just the way. That's another aspect of human nature.
That's right. But let's take a long view ahead, Lloyd. And in a long view, do you see us as a species winding up becoming just another dusty layer in the fossil record to be discovered by some alien-looking, scientist somewhere in the future who will be looking at our skulls in the same way that you're looking at the Starchild skull? Or are we going to get through this and evolve onto something that is going to be better?
I don't think that you and I and those like us will do that. I think that there's a possibility of us being hybridized, and because so much has to be done. So 4,000 genetic repairs, and whatever the repair in our brain, it might just be easier to breed in superior qualities via a program of hybridization. It might be easier to do that than to go in and try to repair it mistake by mistake. And in fact, we could right now be discussing that program underway, that human beings are being used as a kind of a stock to build a better, more enlightened, higher quality species, and is being put somewhere else in some other planet, either in the solar system or somewhere, some other solar system somewhere. We as the Earthlings we are now, I think that we're going to be, just another layer of detritus in the overall, scale of life on Earth, the flow of life on Earth. I don't see us able to overcome our limitations unless there is a wholesale fundamental change in us at the biological level. So there are two ways to do that. You go in and you do the repairs yourself, and that's not beyond our reach if we're given a long enough time to do that. But given our limitations as they are, the way we're polluting the earth and polluting ourselves and our bodies, I don't think we're going to make it. I don't see us getting far enough downstream to be able to fix ourselves. So the other alternative is to do it by a hybridization process, and it looks like, from all we can tell, that might be underway, that somebody has taken it on themselves, perhaps even our creators, saying, okay, well, we made a mistake with that group. Let's do a better one here, and maybe that's what's going on. I don't really know, and I don't think anybody knows. We can sit here and speculate all we want, but we should